Well, Torah fans, here we are in the studios with Hebrew scholar Nehemiah Gordon, who is going to be with us for our upcoming series in which he is going to be revealing ancient Hebrew texts of the Bible that have never, ever been seen in the Western world with some of the most amazing discoveries. Nehemiah?
It's really exciting, Michael. You know, one of the things I've been studying for years is really two topics. One is the name of God, Yehovah, and the other is Hebrew text of the New Testament. And in both areas, we have new discoveries. We have this Hebrew manuscript of the book of Revelation that we're going to get to talk about. And we have these manuscripts of the Old Testament that have the name Yehovah. I've found 10 rabbis who say the name is Yehovah. Some really exciting stuff.
Well, tell me, are there any Jewish sources, we have this question that come in, are there any Jewish sources that say that his name is Yahweh, which we hear so popular in the Gentile world?
Yeah, so Michael, I did this exhaustive search using a database of over 100,000 Jewish books written in Hebrew and Aramaic, and I couldn't find any rabbi in Jewish history who said the name was Yahweh. They might be there, but I could not find them. I found, in fact, 16 rabbis. I said 10, but it's the full number, 16 rabbis who say the name is Yehovah, and Yahweh, couldn't find that one. It doesn't really show up until 1599 when there was a Christian named Gilbert Genebrard, and he's referred to by scholars as the inventor of Yahweh. And he actually bases this on a statement from a Christian church father who's quoting the Samaritans, saying that the Samaritans pronounced the name of God Yahweh. And Genebrard comes along in 1599 and says, well, Yahweh is not Hebrew. What would that be in Hebrew? Oh, that would be Yahweh. And that's the first time we ever find it. And that's written in Latin. Genebrard wrote his book in Latin. First time we ever see it. And now you will find it in the Jewish Encyclopedia. They run with this.
Oh, really? The Jewish Encyclopedia. Now, let's see, can the Jewish Encyclopedia be trusted, really?
Well, so it's interesting. People will point to this. You know why they point to it is because the more recent encyclopedia called the Encyclopedia Judaica was put out in 1971 and then redone in the 2000s, and it's under copyright. So unless you bought a copy, you'll never see it. But the Jewish Encyclopedia is not under copyright, and so it's easily accessible on the internet, but it's considered outdated by Jewish scholars, even sort of antiquated, and they say things that have nothing to do with Jewish sources. And I'll just give you an example. Read their article about who wrote the Torah, and they'll tell you it was written by 4 or 5 or over 20 different sources, or they'll give you different theories. The Torah was written by Moses, the servant of the Most High. And you read
there's no source throughout history
there's no
authentic
Jewish source that says that, and there's no authentic Jewish source that says the name is Yahweh. You have it in the Jewish Encyclopedia from 1904 approximately. One of the things they say there's really interesting. So they say, well, what does Yahweh mean? Which is believed by scholars, and when they say scholars, they mean the German Christian scholars that they're aping, and these scholars who say it's Yahweh, like Genebrard and Gesenius, they actually give several explanations of the word Yahweh, and one of them is the destroyer, from the root he vav he, which in one passage may mean ruin or destruction, and they say Yahweh is he who causes destruction. That's not what my God, meaning of his name. My God, the meaning of his name is Hayah Hoveh Yehyeh, he who was, who is, and who is to come. That's very clear from Exodus 3:14. But they're basing this on a completely different understanding of who that creator is, and that's how they get Yahweh.
Well, now, does not, as we have many questions that have come in from cyberspace around the world, one is, does not the Yah in Hallelujah prove that the name is Yahweh?
So this is a common misconception, and let me back up. So the Yahweh pronunciation, and I don't want to get too technical, but the first vowel in Yahweh is what's called a patach. It's one of the 7 vowels in Tiberian Hebrew. Standard Hebrew, and the Yah in Hallelujah is actually a kamatz, which is a completely different vowel. The two are not interchangeable. There's unrelated vowels. Now, in fact, what's happening in Hallelujah, in words like that, the emphasis of that word is on the final syllable. I mean, technically, Hallelujah is one word, and you have other structures like that. Case Yah, which is the throne of Yah, appears. And it appears in a number of Zimrat Yah, the Song of Yah appears in Exodus 15. I believe that's the first time. And in those instances, the emphasis is on the final word. And there's a standard rule in Hebrew. It's basic Hebrew. You learned it literally in kindergarten, that when you have a word where there's a long syllable which is next to there's a long vowel such as kamatz, which is next to the emphasized syllable, and then that word gets a suffix, it's elongated, that long syllable is shortened to a shva. And what I'm saying is literally stuff you learned in kindergarten. In fact, I want to show them the people on the screen here so they understand what I'm saying. In fact, I'm going to quote a rabbi. And in this rabbi wrote this in 1834. His name was Samuel David Luzzatto, and he's responding to Gesenius, who was the premier Christian German scholar of the period who claimed it was Yahweh, and he really is the source for later scholars. Genebard was the first to say it in 1599, but Gesenius was the authority, and when he said it was Yahweh, that was pretty much it for the academic world. So Samuel David Luzzatto, this rabbi in Italy in 1834, is responding, and he says, the kamatz of Yah, that is that vowel, it's called kamatz, changes to shva, that is the of Yehovah, when the word is elongated, which literally is something you learned in kindergarten. He's giving a kindergarten lesson to Gesenius and the other Gentiles who don't know this stuff. And I could give you a million examples. The Hebrew word for big is gadol, and that has the same exact vowel as the Yah, gadol, Yah, or katan is small. And those are literally basic words you learn. But when you put those in the plural, gadol becomes gedolim, and katan becomes ketanim. Why is that? Because the emphasis is now later on in the word, it's gedolim and ketanim, and that forces a shift in Hebrew, turning the kamatz into a shva. Literally, you learn this in kindergarten, and it's the same exact thing. Yah becomes Yehovah. Because the emphasis is on the va, that of the kamatz turns into a shva. And here we have, it's beautiful, this rabbi in 1834 is explaining to Gesenius something that every Jew learns in kindergarten, like some of the first words you learned is big and small and things like that. And it's just so clear, this pattern throughout the Hebrew language of the elongation of words, and then scholars like to call it today pretonal shortening. But he's explaining in basic terms what's going on here. This is just so clear that the Yah of Hallelujah is no indicator of how to pronounce the name Yud-He Vav-He. And Yah, in fact, is a poetic form of the Father's name. It's an abbreviated poetic form. And we have poetic forms of other names. The name Israel, which in Hebrew is Yisrael, has a poetic form, a very famous one, which is Yeshurun. It's usually written in English as Jeshurun, but it's Yeshurun. Now listen to Yisrael, which has a S in it, and Yeshurun, the poetic form. It doesn't even have all the same consonants. And what that tells you is you can't look at a poetic form of a name in ancient Hebrew and learn how the primary form of that name is pronounced. It doesn't work that way. The name Yehovah is a combination of three forms of the Hebrew verb to be. Haya, Hoveh, Yehyeh. And when we do our full episodes, if we have time, I'd love to be able to share all the evidence for this. It's amazing stuff. There's just evidence, 3 different witnesses that I'll share with the people. Really powerful stuff.
Well, we've got another follow-up on that, which is the word Hovah, according to the Strong's Concordance, means destroyer. So they're going to assert that Yehovah means the destroyer. Well, we don't have time now.
Can we do it next time?
Next time. Okay, we got a word for our sponsors. You out there, don't go away. You don't want to miss a single moment of this upcoming series that we're going to be doing with Nehemiah. But first, we need to hear from you.